wants 200, baby.
You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money. It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at.
Welcome back, everybody. It is Steve. I'm with Trade the Pool, and it is Power Hour. We have had quite the day, quite the adventure, quite the bull parade, if I say so myself. Very, very nice follow through. Let's hop on into it. We have a 5-minute chart to spy on the left. We've got the hourly on the right. Look at that beautiful trend line break. Look at this consolidation, hours and hours of upward consolidation with these big old bottom wicks, guys. I like what I'm seeing. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Am I loving it? I will be if we can pop through this big level in Power Hour here. So let's talk about it. 5-minute chart on the left. What did we do this morning? We got in a little bit early. I saw the breach of the pre-market highs. I knew with a pretty high probability that we were going to resolve upwards. I saw the pullback into moving averages. I got involved a little bit early. It had to wash out, so my stop was under this low. Did I add? Yes, I did. What was I looking for? I was looking for a bullish response to the 80 handle, 680. When I saw the first tap get respected and pop nicely, I was looking for a higher low structure. So we're going to go to a 1 minute to look for that. There's the 1 minute, the big flush stick, and then this big candle. And I already knew that the bottom was likely in, and if not, then I could manage my risk right under here. And at the worst case, hard stop under this previous level that we were watching. So what I was looking for after this power stick, I call this a bid stick right there, that big green candle off the lows. That one tells me that there are buyers involved, getting involved in size. So not a massive amount of volume, but it was a little bit of an uptick. The first kind of uptick after this little green uptick and after these big sells. So that kind of logic here is, okay, we've formed a low, or at least that's the working hypothesis. So now we're looking for a higher low that kind of retests this level and says, all right, we're ready to party. We're ready to change our trajectory. The other part which made this an A+ setup for me was the fact that we were in that 20 minutes in to 30 minutes in window. So basically after 15 minutes, I really like to see a bottom start to be formed in that 15-minute period after that. So from 15 minutes after market open to a half an hour after market open. This is a period that I love to get involved with reversal trades. So by that, I mean I'm bullish overall intraday because we got this initial push above showing me that market wanted to break higher, even if some sellers came in. Then we found support off a key level. We held the previous low, and then we formed that higher low. So those are kind of ticking all of my boxes, as well as being in that period of time where now we have all day to reverse trend. So as you can see, big, powerful trend move up here. 686 was my big target, or my first kind of area of interest, but it was really the 687 to 688.50, which we haven't transacted yet. So now we are trading sideways here. Down to runners, we got out of our 0 DT calls on this push. Really happy with the sell on this big candle. And then I still have, or I actually got to check. I think I have one DTE call left, a 686 call, which is now in the money, and we want to see if we can get a squeeze going. Hey, what's up, Derek? What's up, Joe? How you guys doing? Having a good trading day? SPY here on the 1 minute, starting to look real constructive again. And yeah, I just checked. I do have one of those calls left from it's a 686 call, 1 DTE from a 1.55 cost basis. Not too shabby. So want to hold it, see if we can get a squeeze, because if we do have room up to this previous high. I'd like to see this get tested. That being said, the 687 is definitely an area where there's decent resistance. That's going to be our daily trigger on my trigger system here. I do not have it coded into Trader Evolution yet, but that is the level I'm watching for a flip. So it would make sense if there are some sellers here. We already have had a really nice push today. We just started low, so even though we're coming up this high, we haven't tested our bull pivot yet, which is why I think there could be just a little bit of room, but really it's just sitting up here at this 87.50 handle. I'll draw that out. Now starting to see just a little bit of selling, so we'll see. This was an attempt to hold this kind of basing structure, but at the end of the day here, we could see a little bit of washout and then still get bought up either overnight or into the close. and still end up being bullish. Also, if this is a time where you could potentially see some volume come in and make it fail. I don't think that's what we're going to see. This looks really constructive to me, and I think we at least want to try to push up here. But hey, if this was the attempt and then sellers do step in, we could be looking for a back test of this downtrend line or of this previous level that we were pushing out pre-market before we surged here. So both potentialities here, but I'm just seeing bulls jumping in every single chance they get. So we'll see if that trend continues into the close here. It's gotta cool off a little bit at some point. Question is, do we get a little bit of a squeeze going on first? All right, guys, let's hop into the grid and see what else is cooking. So as usual, we're going to keep SPY on the top left here, going to a 5-minute chart there. And we'll keep it to the 1 as we watch for the algorithms to either hold or turn off on these moving averages. Oh, looks like one just turned off, yeah, through this 5 or 50. So going to probably close out my 1 DTE, call it a win, and look to reload tomorrow. Got my finger on the trigger there, watching to see this 200 tap, hold or reject at this point. Meanwhile, I'm going to start pulling up some other charts here for y'all. VXX, yeah, big red candle there. Looks like the algo's just turned off for the day, but we can see if there's a sharp reclaim in the next 2 minutes or so to get a bottom wick on the 5-minute. Otherwise, looking like VXX and VIX volatility products might be basing off a higher low here, and we could see this try to push up, and it would be time to basically get out of your really short dated stuff and wait for a higher low to occur on an hourly chart on SPY. Probably tomorrow. Okay, so we're watching VXX here. Going to move that to a 5-minute chart. I'm going to pull up the Qs as well because I want to see relative strength between SPY and tech, because tech has definitely been leading on the way up today. Very nice move there. Looking like we're not probably going to get the follow through today. So given this 1 minute, then I'm going to close that last call. Whoop. Okay, a little bit of a bottom wick there. So the idea is it needs, oh, I'm dropping my phone. The idea there is it needs to hold this previous swing low here. If it can't hold the bottom of this basing formation, it's probably invalid. Right now, it looks like a rising wedge or an ascending triangle that failed. So we got to assume that's true. But that being said, until it loses this, very often these can kind of just recarve out a higher low compared to this low of the base. Then it can trade back up to the neckline and eventually digest and push through. So a few other charts I want to keep an eye on. I want to keep an eye on healthcare, which is pushing on higher today. I was a dip buyer yesterday, a little bit early yesterday, but that trade is coming back almost green on the trade. So we're thinking that that XLV is going to do pretty strongly here, and the thesis behind that is essentially, first off, the chart looks really good. Second off, the biggest component of it, or biggest components, are these plays like UNH, Cigna, CI, MOH, Molina Healthcare, all these healthcare providers, insurance providers, which are trying to break up and on out through these basing product or bottoming processes. And they have a lot of room to squeeze up if they can. All right, there is a pressure release on SPY. That's going to stop me out of those calls, or that call, I should say. Big red, big red. And we want to see where we catch. Oops. As long as it holds this higher low, I think into the next day, still holding a bullish trend off the morning, but we got to respect that this 687 cluster, that was the daily trigger, and it can take time to digest those. Not always going to get a pop through on the first. So as fun as it would have been, looks like no squeeze today. We already got kind of a squeeze in the morning there. So we're going to see how strong buyers are here. This is the point of control as well at 686. Salute. Hey, welcome, Tuna. How you doing, man? Having a good day? Seeing this EOLS on my screen from yesterday. Looking like that had a fun day. Very tradable. And overnight, yeah, up nicely overnight. Congratulations to the EOLS swingers there. And SPY going to try to carve out a bottom on that little flush out candle there. We can see if it can rebase. Like I said, it did violate this previous low. So a little bit sketchy there. And it could trade back into here. Potentially slide under here to the 685. And the idea there is kind of if it rejects the middle point of this point of control, the kind of peak of this mountain here, then it can slide down to the lowest point, just like rolling down a hill. So that's why we watch pretty closely here, and also why there was a reaction, a notable reaction there. That was the first place where buyers tried to hold. So now they're going to get tested again, and we will see if they can do this thing, which is forming a higher low. They're going to try right now to push the candle, close it high, and we just kind of have to watch and wait. So far, rejected that, and not a good sign when the bulls try and fail so early in the candle. Very likely we do expand down. Still technically holding here. And you can kind of look at it like there was a little bit of a gap where the tape just kind of traded straight up. It was just bullish in this range. So it makes sense that we need to kind of come back and clean that area up, get some bearish trading in there too. We can chop it around there a little bit, fill that out, fill out this node a little more. Otherwise, like I said, we could slide down a little bit more while still retaining the structure form from the morning, 3 dips down here. The series of higher lows in this flag structure that we tried to break out from, kind of just retesting this breakout. So whenever I'm a little unclear on what direction a range might be going, there's a few tools I use. The first is monitoring these volatility products, because I don't want to see a bullish VXX or VIX VIX chart, which is what I usually use. I don't want to see a bullish chart there, because that's usually going to imply downward pressure here. And you can see that very clearly as this pushes up, this is pushing down. So we just got to watch breakpoints in particular. You'll often find that essentially as SPY trades down into a key level and VIX will be trading up into a key level, and you can watch, you get basically 2 different looks at a breakout, one from a bullish perspective and one from a bearish perspective, or for a chart break, I should say. So it can really help you kind of train your eye and not just be, kind of hopefully wishing for a dip to catch, when maybe if you were looking at VXX, you'd be like, well, that chart looks bullish. I can't deny that, So that can be really useful, I would say. SPY still trying to show some life here. So some little bottom wicks, but just not seeing the juice. Not seeing the juice like we have on the past few dips down. So we can see if that steps in the next 5 minutes or so. But so far, the 15-minute candle looking like pretty bearish close there. And VIX trying to push up. So meanwhile, XLV quite strong though, pushing the high of day. Again, just kind of a sentiment of a little bit of a move back towards risk off after this morning flooding into tech. So yeah, tech coming down, XLV going up a little bit, and we should watch what energy is doing too. These are the most important ETFs, indices to watch. And then I also watch XLF quite a bit as well. XLF is often a leading indicator, and in general, you just want to see it strong in a bullish market cycle. And, if it's starting to lead the way down, that can be a warning sign. And that is what we saw on the last pullback we've had here, that hopefully, fingers crossed, might be done. I think that the bottom's probably in here this week, but, it's never get too sure. Hey, Talk. Hey, Tyler. Good to see you guys. Let's see. We got some Iran news, it looks like. U.S. sinks an Iranian warship. Last time the U.S. sank a warship was in World War II. Man, things are heating up. Yeah, we got to keep monitoring the situation. Get your binoculars out. You know the meme, Jeff Bezos at the launch deck. You got to monitor this situation. It's in all seriousness, don't burn yourselves out, guys. I know it's a lot of news to monitor. It's good to be aware, good to be prepared, but at the end of the day, it's a whole lot of stuff we can't control, and it can be kind of heavy. So make sure you prioritize doing what you got to do to not be caught up too much in it. It is what it is, as they say. So SPY breaking down further here, This is why we had to get out of those calls just in case the slide continued. It can bounce pretty much whenever because we're still in the range, but I'm just seeing this ramp on VXX. We're going to watch it into this little, what is that going to be? It's the 5-minute 50. So roughly the 200-minute moving average. All right, we just broke above the 200-minute, this purple. So keeping an eye on that. whenever you are above a 200-minute moving average intraday, probably a decent sign, especially if it's trending up or flattened, that you are in a bull trend intraday. So SPY, you can see, just lost theirs, and that's the kind of dual pivot thing that I'm talking about there. The dual pivot. Yeah, adding short for sure, just the environment. Okay, all right. Talks a little bearish. I'm thinking it's tough. We did tag that hourly trigger, or I'm sorry, the daily trigger at 687. That's a big level for me. I just feel like we might still have unfinished business up above. Let me check on the book map, see what that's looking like. And not giving me too much. They pulled liquidity from above, added a little bit below, but not anything so major as to otherwise just say, hey, it explains what we're doing right now. And okay, so that first bid attempt did just get hammered back, looking like we probably need to flush on lower. Double check, make sure my hedge is still on. I'm a little paranoid. So my cat, God love her to death, she closed a trade on my phone when it was sitting on my desk this morning, and it was not the worst entry or exit, to be honest. Honestly, she kind of had my back on that one. But I like to be in control of my own destiny, so that kind of stressed me out. I want to make sure I still got the put. All right. Yeah, we're good. We're good. All right. So still got my healthcare as well, and I think that swing's going to start to work pretty soon here. Just waiting on UNH primarily to catch a bid. Amazon still ripping. Leave Cleo alone. Well, she's a better trader than me sometimes. It was not the worst exit. I would have gotten an extra 5, 6, 7% maybe if I had played by my rules. But you know what? That's okay. That's okay. It's worth it. It's worth it. You got to have your emotional support animals. So AA had some of the wildest price action this morning. I wish I could say I executed my trade and I had my sell order already in for my runner on AA when it swept that high. I didn't. I looked like 5 minutes after this triggered and we were way down here and this thing got beat. And I wonder what's going on with these commodities and if the trade is just kind of over for a little bit while money flows back into big tech. And those charts have a nice room to grow there, nice bottoming structure. So I am not adding more quite yet to these names. I've already, accumulated a good amount from lower, and I think I need a really good dip to actually get further involved there. That being said, I have been adding or starting positions in tech. So Microsoft and Meta, first two, just nibbles. And I wish I bought more. And then the biggest position that I bought from the bottom is going to be my Ethereum. And it still is pretty small. So I'm still looking to build into these, but I think that crypto has room to run. Feels like a pretty fat pitch, pretty safe trade, all things considered. It's easy to define risk. We can bring up that chart in just a second here. Are we in a trade? Hey, welcome. No, I'm not in a intraday trade. No, but if you guys are curious about what I'm thinking here, we can talk about it intraday. So I'm more focused on my swing trades in my personal account at this point in the day. We caught the morning move, and that's kind of where probability fades. I thought we could maybe squeeze. I took a lotto call. I sold my lotto call down 50%. So I gave back about 10, 20% of what I made this morning. And that's fine with me. But goes to show that, hey, if things aren't working perfectly, there's a little bit of indecision. I'm going to wait until I feel like I have more of an edge. So bias is up. This is a very bullish volume profile. Nice volume here at the high of the day here at 686. That's going to be our biggest pin. So ideally, we dip down a little bit, maybe to 684, 685 overnight or tomorrow. And that's the area we're looking to catch that dip and look for a push higher to tackle the 688.50 to 690 zone. So that's kind of what I'm looking for here. Intraday looks like a rising wedge broke down. So rising wedge broke down, we can look for a few things. First off, we're going to slap a fib on here. Room down to the 50% fib. That would be retesting this area, this lows. So if you are in a short, that might be your first target. I'm seeing some low points on the volume node here at 685. 684.83. We are flushing down there. I would definitely say don't chase this, but you can look at this 9-minute moving average as a guide. If you get a pop back into here, then that is your opportunity to get into a short. But you know what? I'm not sure that this is the best environment to short in. And that being said, it is breaking down pretty decently. The thing is that this is going to be a magnet, this 686. If we dip too far below and sellers get a little bit tired, it can snap back there pretty quick. And in general, I'm thinking that the way tech's acting, it feels like we're kind of bottoming. So I'm not too eager to play the short side. I do have my hedge still on, but it's a true hedge that's free rolled. I don't even worry about it at this point. And that makes it a little bit trickier because I'm a little more inclined to be a little more bullish than I have to be, I think, or should be. So we did tag the intermediary, the 50 fib of this first swing down into the new range expansion pushing higher. This is an area of interest. And I'm going to check my other chart and find our VWAP. SPY VWAP is going to be located roughly at 684. I have 80 roughly right there. 684.80, which was a level that we mentioned that's actually a little bit of a low volume node on this volume profile. So I think we could whip into there, then very quickly trade up. That being said, nice flush out to this equilibrium. That's where we are finding just the faintest hint of support. Let me get that out of the way. I'm trying to redraw this box. Right down to this bottom wick area from the middle of the pattern here. So see, this is why it's really hard to short these, because any one big candle can just be like oversold on whatever time frame, a short time frame, and get bought up really fast. So we can see what we do into this falling 9-minute. But for me, no trade here. Usually my philosophy is catch one directional scalp in the morning. If I'm trading on all cylinders firing perfectly, I would be able to say, all right, this pattern is rejecting. I think we need to dip down somewhere into here. I won't know exactly where. My target will be under here, but I'll sell it before then if we get a big bid candle or buy candle, as I call them. So that would be that big green candle after we get to a key level, and then just a clear buying stick, usually closing near the high. So ideally, I can catch this little short, and then this is the big trade I'm looking for. I'm just looking to kind of gauge the weakness here, take a little bit, get a little cushion on the day, and then try to catch this trend reversal. And this will usually occur in the 15 minutes after the bell to 30 minutes after the bell window. So that's my hot spot. That's the zone where I really like to take a trade. Liquidity is great. You get great follow through if you do get that trend up. And then you get to trade for some range expansion here. For me, a higher time frame level was the 686 to 687-ish kind of area. And that's because on the daily chart, it's got some big moving averages there that I'll show you real quick. So at this point in the day, I need a real good reason to take a trade, and it's usually just a little mean reversion trade. Like I'd maybe try to short this one. I wasn't watching super closely because I was just getting on stream there. And it just lower probability setup than I usually take. But you could scalp it, maybe looking for VWAP. We might get down there. That'd be 685.80. And that would be a reasonable trade. But in general, I feel like I'm kind of pushing my luck taking 3 trades in a day, intraday that is. And SPY is at a really pivotal point. This daily chart on the left shows us that we are testing a move back into these moving averages. The last time we did this, we opened low, we closed high, and we tested these moving averages, but did find sellers there. We ended up gapping down and selling really hard. So it's a little bit scary just thinking about the possibility of how hard the sellers could come in overnight if we get some bad news. So we got to just keep in mind that this is kind of no man's land. It's a good place to hedge into in case we do get that bearish scenario. I'm kind of starting to feel like this is becoming like a failed breakdown, and it's starting to look actually bullish, and there can be kind of a squeeze going on. And because of that context, I'm hesitant to short because you see you're not getting a ton of follow through. Like you're not getting all the way down to VWAP, which would be a very logical target. So it's just showing that price is kind of sticky up here. And we got to wait until we get some definitive price action, either up and through or as a rejection, in my book at least. All right, let me take a look at comments here. Yo, what's up, Mike? Good to see you, brother. Your IGV leap's looking good, I bet. Yeah, very nice call there. I was a little too impatient, and you know what? So today I got my confirmation that I needed. So I added to my small positions of MSFU and METU. I started the position in METU. So those are my only two mega cap buys, but I think they all look good. Amazon has a ton of room to run. Man, they all are just really strong, honestly. So what can you say? If the mega caps are setting up and tech is kind of holding the lows of the range, we're seeing a good incentive there. It's hard for me to assume that we're bearish just because we're trading back into the middle of the range. So I'm holding my bullish positions, especially the stuff that's at the bottom of their ranges, like tech, like those big, software as a service or mega cap tech companies. And those I think are where you're going to get a lot of good returns here in a short amount of time. So even though overall I'm much more bullish on commodities, on hard assets, that's just long term. Short term, I'm more than happy to take some risk off in terms of those baskets and reallocate that money. Throw it into these sectors that have been beaten down and have a good mean reversion trade there. And you know what? When those trades start to get weak, up maybe in the middle or top of their range, well, then I can take risk off there, and probably it'll be a good time to allocate back into those commodities. That barbell approach can serve you really well. And maybe it's not commodities, maybe at that point it's healthcare, energy. There's going to be some other sector or area that's diversified that's going to be giving a better look where money can kind of flow into. So I think watching that sectoral rotation can do you really good and just kind of keep you where the money is going, kind of skating towards the puck there. Tyler saying he was watching ASML last night and it was dropping. Went to sleep saying, "Hey, I might get a buy in the morning." Nope, came right back up. So yeah, these semiconductors are incredibly resilient. It's really hard to kill these. And I think Kospi, the South Korean index, it puked like 11%, and then it whipped back up like 7 or something crazy. I forget exactly. I was just following through my Twitter feed there, but it seems like a little bit of cracks in these trades. But those first cracks can get bought up. It could lure a lot of people in. Maybe I'm one of those, but it could also just be another stair step down before a higher stair step on the ladder, on up. I do believe that memory, for example, and semi caps, they're still being repriced. I think there still is room higher. Speaking of room higher, SPY, it's just no quit. So we're right back to the pivot here, and now we're going to probably slow down and make a decision. A big push through would be a nice bullish sign into the close. And, bears, of course, want to target that VWAP down here at 60 or 684, 80-ish, right around. I'll draw it out. Right around there. So that's kind of how you would frame it. Bulls would like to see a new high a day in the last half hour. Kind of ambitious at this point, but hey, not out of the question. And, things can get a little bit crazy as we see what direction we choose into this pivot into the middle. It would be a prime place to kind of trap people a little bit, in one direction or the other. So I'm going to keep an eye here, and of course, where we open tomorrow. Yeah, South Korea did sell off for multiple reasons. I think it was, a parabolic setup where technically it was very overstretched. And then there was the Iran news and, all of that memory production. I guess they're very heavily reliant on Middle Eastern oil. So that's something I learned. Apparently, there's a good reason, on the fundamental side to explain that disruption in the technicals as well. So got to keep an eye on the microns on the SanDisks and see how they hold up. Speaking of which, let's pop back to the grid and take a look at those. And don't forget, guys, you see that banner up on, where is it? Over there, up on the top. Market Madness is coming up, guys. In just a few days, it is all going to start. So be sure to check on the Trade the Pool website. We have a whole landing page there explaining all the details of the contest. But essentially, you can either choose your own team comprised of, for example, a mega cap center, and you have your small cap forward, and you have these different kind of baskets that you can use to build your team. And then you can play in a round robin kind of situation, tournament situation. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of good prizes. You can win Trade the Pool trading accounts, of course, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. So go out and check out that page, if for no reason other than to laugh at the awesome work that our graphics department did. They put us on basketball cards. It's a blast. They did such a good job, but it's quite funny, especially mine, I'd say. So that's worth the price of admission, which is free, which is pretty good deal if you ask me. Not too shabby. So trying to keep up on comments here while watching all of these charts. By the way, NVIDIA, really nice recovery here, carving out a higher low, roughly holding this larger pennant shape that we have been watching. Cheating a little bit, redrawing it just a little bit. But roughly this zone seems to be respecting. And so we got a big pop in the midday there, coming back down. And this is a great place to target your sells, guys. If you have a stock that's moving intraday, you got to look at that daily chart, because then look at that falling 9-day moving average right there. Ding, that's the target. That's where they're selling from. So you could also say, hey, look, there's a gap fill right there. So you can stack these confluences and say, hey, there's a really high probability that if the price gets to this region, it's a great place to sell. And, when we look at SPY, we see kind of the same thing. On the daily, is this going to be a great place to sell? Who's to say? It's definitely a great place to take risk off or to hedge. Either way. And on the left here, this 1 minute chart, we're still seeing the algos are in charge. Ever since that 1 minute sell through the white line, that's been a strong seller. So until this can get reclaimed by the strength of the short-term buyers, we are in an algorithmic sell program here. Pretty straightforward, I think. And you can see how these moving averages just pinch together and form our ranges. So right now, this buy program is still on. We'll see if they turn it off here, or if this one holds to form a higher low. Then, if this does form a higher low, we'll probably retest this white trigger, this 50-minute. And if we sweep over that, break above it, that'll form a higher high after a higher low and form a bullish bottoming structure, potentially at least. So really cool to see how these interact, and it helps you get a really good feel for how price oscillates and digests, through a range intraday. So let me catch up here. Yeah, so sounds like talk is saying essentially a lot of countries have a lot of commodities stockpiled already, and if this news can kind of represent at least a short-term de-escalation, even if it might end up being a more prolonged conflict, that could lead to a little bit of pressure coming out of these names, at least in the short term. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. I'm trying to glance over here and see what y'all are chatting about. But I'm focused on this intraday price action because I want to see where we close in relation to these moving averages. That being said, I am parched and out of water. Give me 30 seconds to run here. I will be right back. Be careful of SPY, like I said, flushing and losing this low, losing this 200-minute moving average. You can also see how it represents the low of this kind of chunk where the volume shelf is high. See that kind of peak right there and the peak up here? So when we kind of reject above the middle, then we might need to come down and test sweep under here, potentially down here. All right, back in a flash. Now we're talking, baby. Hydration is key. Don't forget it. You think worse when your brain is not happy, and your brain is not happy if it's thirsty. So guys, looking for a higher low, or more than likely this to resolve a little bit lower and maybe flush out just a bit under VWAP, or 2 VWAP, I would say. In general, not seeing much worth trading, but if you like scalping, we can talk about that. Like I said, rejection here, probably going to VWAP. Otherwise, higher low off the 200, this purple, or higher if bulls can just send it here. Then that would lead to a sweep of this and potential structure higher, especially for a swing. Probably not going to get too much of a move today, especially because we have the mock candle coming up in 15 minutes, close coming up in 25. So let's stay tuned, and we'll keep an eye on how this price develops. I see some of you have made it to to our landing page there. Yeah, some fun pictures for sure. Gold about 25 points off the recent high. Yeah, the wild swings in those metals are pretty crazy. And am I crazy? I bought a starter in Baba. Am I insane? I'm red on it. The proud owner of Baba shares from Bob X. So I'm double down. But a small starter. I bought maybe mid around like 141, I'd say 140, 150-ish. So I'm a little red here. But I don't know. There's a lot of bottom wicks in this capitulation here. So I don't know what's going on. Quite a puke, but it feels like we're close. Feels like we're close. Might be crazy. You like it? Yeah, ouch times two. Ouchies times two. But when you look at it really, big picture, when you look at it, I don't want to sell this until we make a new high up at like 200 plus. You know, this is a starter. I don't think I can be scared out quite yet. Maybe it's not the cleanest entry, but I want to build a little bit of a position because this is more conviction than the mega caps were last week for you talk. And you built those positions and now you're starting to reap the benefits. And that's awesome. I have to chase a little bit. So, I had to wait for that confirmation. Now I'm starting to get in a little bit of those. But this is one where I believe in a lot more. Like you mentioned, these meetings coming up, I think they're going to be very important. Personally, I believe China has a lot more leverage than the market is kind of pricing in right now. Their exports have been very, very steady this whole time. And I'm watching SPY looking pretty darn constructive here. We'll see if this is a valid high or low, and we can break on through this neckline. So that's where I'm at. When I look at this Baba weekly chart, I just see it retesting this gap up breakout. This is never good. I thought it was going to hold on this weekly candle. Then it didn't. And then it came to the 200. And I said, all right, this is my spot. It was finding buyers under the 200 day. I'll show you that again. Can't see the 200 day on this chart. I'm not sure why. But essentially, I believe it was right about 141. And maybe it was 145, something like that. I think this candle was reaching up back into it, but it was still under it. But it was finding buyers under it. So to me, that's putting it on my radar. It's got the high time frame setup I like. It's got the kind of macro outlook I like. And I'm looking to kind of keep on shifting exposure. Nice work on SPY here. We're looking for the sweep of that high right there to confirm a attempt at higher. So keeping an eye there. So yeah, I like it. I want to get more exposure into foreign markets, like I was talking about. I still really like Latin America. So ILF having a nice recovery day today. I believe EWZ is as well. I wish I added some leverage on EWZ. I had some calls that I was buying like in here. So I'm red on those, but they're coming back and they're for April and March. So we'll see if those survive. I think the Aprils are probably going to be good at 40 strikes, and we'll see how that rolls. Ideally, I think this could be a megaphone. Kind of wishful thinking, but hey, it's possible. And just a big flush out like this to a high time frame level, this 50-day moving average, and a strong response off that makes me think that it's probably going to reclaim and push higher. Similarly to how it did break structure down here, flushed under this level, but then found buyers pretty soon after that, and then just kind of carved its way on up. So what I'd like to see is a surge up through the moving averages similar to here, and then tightening up as they catch up. That would look something like this, a surge up, then tightening there. And bigger push up. That's what we're looking for. SPY's just still indecisive here. To me, I don't think it's going to do anything today. Nothing real. I said earlier, I think when I got on, that it might be just pinning at this point of control, this 686 level. And so far, that has been the tail of the tape. Just hammering this level all day long, surged above it, surged below it a little bit, just right back to it. So for me, good time to just wait and chill. And we can see how we react tomorrow to those big moving averages. All right. Wix, big day. What is Wix? I thought you were saying VIX. Saying Wix. That's constructive. I like the curl up on that 9. Definite trend change there. And are we breaking a doom loop? pretty aggressive velocity on the sell. Boom. Big pop over that doom trend line, as I would call it. Just the doom loop down trend line. SPY's looking good. Looking like it wants to at least attempt to reach into internal liquidity, probably the 686.67. That's a little area you can look for. Maybe it doesn't have the juice to make a new high, but it can rip to there. We do have 19 minutes left, so bulls can try to make a new high. Just not sure they have the power. Definitely don't feel like shorting into this quite yet either. So, sometimes no trade is the trade. Like I said, usually 1 or 2 in the morning, and that's it. Talk saying he sold EMXC. Is that what is that? That's something, is that like a Mexican ETF or something? Emerging markets ex China. Interesting. Okay. I didn't know there was that ticker. That is a good name to be in recently, huh? But that's a just vertical chart. Yeah, until recently. So this must be heavily weighted with EWY, I figure, because this literally just looks like South Korea's chart. I love it. And there's a surge on SPY. Nice. So we're going to reach up into this 1 minute fair value gap and into this high volume node at 686.66. And that's where we're going to be watching for price action to give us some hints on whether we can sweep the high or back on down. Talk is adding KWeb, the Chinese tech ETF. He's brave, and I agree with him. I like it. I like the trade. We can look at that chart as well. BABA is that's what I'm most comfortable with. I figure if KWeb goes up, it probably will too. It led the way up last time. And this to me looks like a Wyckoff Spring. I still don't know how to say his name. Forgive me. He's rolling in his grave right now. But to me, this curl downwards, if it like this looks like capitulation, 1 gap, 2 gap, 3 gaps, exhaustion gaps down. Now big volume here. I also saw some nice flow on FXI. I believe they were June 38C, June 38 calls. So the market is betting in the next month or so, 2 months, this will make a mean reversion move back up and fill these gaps where it basically fell off a cliff from. This nice big high volume profile here. So really liking this setup here for a nice mean reversion trade. And long term, I think China's going higher. So it's just a matter of, is this the bottom tick or is this a mean reversion trade? And then it still ends up going lower first. Always a possibility, especially with China. These tickers love to mess with you. They look like they're ready and they say, no, sir. Then when they do go, they just don't look back and everybody thinks they're done and they keep going and then everybody chases and then they die. These are really hard to trade. Most of the action happens overnight. So just be careful, but this is a lower risk opportunity to get involved. You add the ETF first, then add the holdings. I like that. So you're kind of diversifying your risk to get a foothold, assuming that, hey, if the leaders are going up, it'll go up too. And then you can kind of start to isolate those leaders. I don't know. How do you do it? Do you look for leaders and then look for places to get in on those? Or do you try to play laggards after kind of isolating which are leading and try to play the catch-up trade? Because I usually get burnt playing catch-up, and I usually do better focusing on those leaders. But I'm curious about your take on it. Okay. Oh man, I'm getting hungry, guys. I'm gonna grub out after this. Let's see, get a nice push up here into our zone that we were looking for, and see how price is just not necessarily rejecting, but it's just slowing down a little bit as it fills out this little imbalance and comes in to tap into this high level of volume right above that low level of volume. So that's a very common interaction, right? You have the low volume and then a big ceiling. So price kind of bonks around up and down in that low volume place with the ceiling kind of capping it until it's ready to make its move, until it kind of fills out that low volume node. Talk just saying it's easier to trade the ETF. That makes sense. I look at me. I look at SPY all day long. This is the main thing I trade. This is where I make most of my money. And then I have fun, play an individual name. Some of them work amazingly. Some of them not so much. but my hit rate much higher on SPY, especially intraday moves. And then I use that to fund some good risk reward trades, which may be a 50 to 60% hit rate. But when they do win, they win nice. That's the plan. That's the goal anyways. If I'm trading well, that's the goal. Not always the case. It's been a rough February for me. So I'm glad that it's March now, starting off well, and outside of the Cure debacle. So I did take a position in this right before the FDA head of the FDA decided to open his mouth and make some very questionable claims. I do think it recovers, but I think it's going to take some time. This thing, obviously dead for now. So I took a bath on that. Sizing wise, kept me relatively safe. Never feels good to have a thing you own open 30% red. So not the best there. We're working our way back from that. Besides that, a good start. Almost break even on the month, despite this. This is no fun. No fun. So we talked about BABA. We talked about FXI. I also like Baidu as a name that is holding the bottom of its range. Finding some buyers. So I don't know what's going on with that. Let's look at the 4 hour. Just another to watch here as it kind of chops out a bottom of a range. Could take a few weeks, a week or two, just like Microsoft and all the tech names did. But as it tries to bottom, I'm going to try to build a position. Not necessarily in Baidu. I do like the name, but I think I'll be buying FXI and a little more BABA. Maybe I'll do KWeb instead of FXI. So SPY still shaking and baking. Reached up into that imbalance, like we mentioned, found a seller. Popping back down to the pivot. And these moving averages that we popped above, testing. While I fight with my line here. All right, you're fired. Line, we're doing a zone. Okay, to me, like this looks like it probably needs to wash out and test this low again, or this rising 200 minute again, but we'll see. 2 minutes until the mock candle, 12 minutes until the bell, guys. So start thinking about where you're going to exit if you aren't already. Bulls still holding on to the moving averages. We'll see if they can form a sideways flag or if they need to sweep down lower. Like I kind of think they might. 2 minutes till imbalances. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Talking about adding light and GLW again. Pardon, you added light at 65? Do you mean 650? If you mean 65, then absolute kudos and the most annoyed congratulations, because I wish I had that entry. That's beautiful. So I'm looking for light, MU, SanDisk, all of these leaders, COHR, basically these names that I think are being repriced still to pull back 25-ish%, 20% in this kind of high and tight flag formation. So that would be where I look for bottoming to happen. For MU, that's around 350. We didn't quite get there. I'd like one more flush. I don't know if we get it. So I see I have kind of conflicting narratives. I kind of think we bottomed on SPY, but I kind of think that we could see a lower low on some of these, high flyers. So I don't know which one of those plays out. I'm open to both of them. Probably both of them don't happen occurring. I'm open to either one of those occurring. Okay. I'm seeing a little bit of flow on SQQQ calls for March 20th, 90 strike. We'll take a look at SQQQ. So somebody betting on SPY going, or Q's going down, saying, I call BS. Whoa, all right, there's a big flush candle on SPY. Whoa, all right, that's a big mock sell. Okay, so overnight might be spicy. We might see some more downward action, and I would love it if they sell us all night and then they flush us a little bit in the morning again, and then we get to get another day like the past couple where we just buy all cash session long. So that's kind of where I'm at. Oh, you're out of GEV. That's one of my only kind of in that basket holdings that I still have. It's just working so well. And I did want a little exposure still on. Maybe I'll take a little more off. SPY. So flush that intermediate low there. For me, this breaks structure, and I would expect a bit of a flush out into tomorrow for sure. Going to pull up an hourly. And funny, we just mentioned those SQQQ calls. So these are insane. Those are 90 strikes. What in tarnation are they expecting to happen in the next couple weeks? Probably a hedge. very likely a hedge, a very degenerate hedge. But interesting timing. That's why I always watch flow. Especially on these inverse ETFs, you can often see some pretty big moves occur after there's some flow there because, it's called a Vanna trade, I believe. This is a trade that capitalizes on the Vanna Greek, which is basically a large change on a longer dated contract. Often does really well, a couple weeks out contract can often perform very, very well, even if you're not going to approach anywhere near the strike that you bought. Your whole play is the torque from the incredibly cheap to a little bit less cheap kind of play there, is my understanding of it at least. SPY trying its best to hold at the kind of base of this mountain before sliding on down into the gully down here. We will see how it can go, or how it does there. Hey, Adrian. Good to see you, man. Hope you're having a good week. Been a little bit. Said loaded yesterday for a third swing on NBIS. I know you love this one. Loading between 80, 85, selling into 105, 108. Yeah, great range trading there. Let's take a look at that. I don't know which way these guys are going to go. I hope they resolve upwards. All these crypto data miners, they have been not easy. No follow through on some really clean setups in my book. Like Wolf was looking really good, just no follow through. WULF, that is. NBIS, we're starting to get like a inverted head and shoulders here, though. And it's a really nice defined range, like you're mentioning. So till we get a break of this range, he's saying he's selling. We'll draw out his range. What's his range? Selling 105 to 108. That looks pretty darn good to me. Selling right up there. Buying 80 to 85. Nice discipline there. So you don't want to buy down here, really, because it could go way lower. You want to wait for it to come up and form that high or low in the zone. So you don't really want to buy here. You want to wait for it to come up, form the high or low in the zone. So that gave you two real clean entries. Let's see how much you would have made off of those. Nice 20% there. Another 25% or so there. And this is still in the range while you're still deciding whether it's going up or not. Yeah, so not too shabby as it just builds up pressure here. So it's the war of the dueling patterns. Is this a head and shoulders into this neckline? Or is it an inverted head and shoulders into this neckline? Find out next week on Dragon Ball Z. But you gotta love a strong surge through these moving averages. So it's showing relative strength to SPY, which is not through that moving average cluster, despite being higher in its range overall, or higher in its higher time frame range. So let's see where these mock sells pair off at. It looks like a little bit of buys up, or buying coming back in here. And we can see which way this resolves. Personally, I think, like I said, based on this, probably need to go a little bit lower. Adrian saying same goes for IREN. They move exactly the same. If it breaks, I'm doubling down most likely. Woof. I love it. I assume you mean breaks. Yeah, breaks 108 with volume. Yes, absolutely. I love that. So don't be scared to add into the top of the range if it meets the criteria. And that's always a match of the effort and the result. Ooh, speaking of effort and result, we're getting some volume coming in and buyers are responding. So what I mean by that is the volume represents the effort. That's how much of a resource is being expended on whatever push, either bullish or bearish, you're seeing. The result is the price action. Is there follow through based on all of that effort? If there's all of that effort into the top of the range, into that 105 to 108, and there's no follow through, that's bearish. If there's low volume up there, well, that's not showing the interest we need to punch through either. So what you want to see is that high volume, that effort, combined with the result, the actual follow through up there. What you like to see in the top part of a range is you like to see the volume kind of dry up, and you want to see the volume coming in on the upside. And you want to see the sells be very low volume. And that shows an accumulation and a transferring of shares at that given price from the weaker short-term hands to the longer-term hands who think this thing's going to keep going. So the people who are more likely to hold. And that's what's going to keep providing a floor that keeps rising and rising and rising until there's nobody left to sell at that price. And then you can get the big move up. That'll be like a stage 1 breakout into a stage 2 expansion. So when those start, they can really rip. And one big contender there is going to be that Ethereum. So FA, ETHA is a good way to play it. As you can see, beautiful candle here today. We started buying on this day in this back test of this 9 moving average. It undercut, reclaimed. I think I nibbled a little more, somewhere around that same level. Right around 15 is my cost basis on ETHA. So feeling good about that now and looking like it can keep on cooking on up. So looking for a big spike up if it can get through this level, which it looks like it's going to close through today. On Ethereum, it's 2150, 2145 to 2150. A close over that, looks like it's going to retest it into the close here, is a signal for me that it's going to surge at the very least to 2500, which is right about there. I think it goes up to 2800, right about here. So you can also trade ETHU for the swing there. Get some even more gas. So I'll be looking for buys on that tomorrow. So SPY here, see, we're just trusting our algorithmic patterns. When the 50 moving average, this white line broke, we're in bear mode until it reclaims with force. So it really did try here, but it couldn't follow through on a 15-minute candle. And then we had the big sell. So that big sell broke this low. Our structure's all messed up now. So when we trade back into these moving averages, we got to trust them. So these were short entries here for an expansion down low. Okay, what else we got? I know, yeah, Talk's trying to keep up with Mike. I'm trying to keep up with Talk. Talk's a wheat trader. Oh, speaking of wheat traders, the commodity bros, it might be your day in the sun finally. So corn and wheat both starting to do some stuff. Today, I would imagine they probably sold. They sold, and then they are getting bought back up. And I think these are basing for a squeeze. I think these are long-term bottoming processes on corn and wheat. Commodities that, if there's extended conflict, these do well. They often move with fertilizer and oil, right? They often move when there is war. Guess what, guys? There's some war afoot. There's some war afoot. Corn, higher low, long-term weekly base here. We have a lot of room in the range. That being said, a lot of room. This is still not a crazy percentage mover. This will put you to sleep in shares. How would you feel if you got a crazy squeeze like that and you were up 10%, 15%, right? Not the craziest move percentage-wise, but, maybe you leverage it in your trade the pool account. Maybe you leverage it with some options and, maybe you can make a pretty penny on a longer-term trade here on wheat and corn. So keep an eye on those. I'm an NTR. That's my fertilizer play. What in tarnation is that? That's something. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this didn't really happen. And it's an artifact. But the longer term picture here is a long-term downtrend that seems to be curling up and out here. Something like that. Clear break of trend. That white line as well is our 200-day roughly. So not a bad look. And then there we go on SPY, like we said, into the moving averages, short opportunity, pushing on down, very likely to make a new low, very likely to reach lower. So SPY, the moving average, the level I'm looking for below, VWAP currently sitting at 685 even. Right there. So I would imagine if you're in some 0-day shorts or something and you caught this move, congratulations, probably look to monetize starting as we push down here. There's the bell. So let's see which way price moves after the bell here. I would imagine goes a little lower. There we go. So it tagged the 685. That would be where I would monetize personally. We could go lower though. Could flush pretty low. So definitely pretty rough on the close after such a bullish day. But overall, I think that this is a good sign that in the cash session, we're seeing primarily buyers. Overnight is primarily where the sellers occur in that low volume, taking advantage, So I think that we are going to get another chance to buy tomorrow, but I'll have to wait and see if the prerequisites are hit. So be sure to come on in and follow me in my Discord if you want to follow that price action and me trying my best to navigate it. It's been a wild couple of days. We've caught most of the moves worth catching. So yeah, feel free to come on in there. You can find my Discord server in my Twitter bio at Steve Teilman, SteveTeilmann. As always, the great folks at Trade the Pool have an amazing Discord server as well. Lots of great discussion there. And our one and only One-Eyed Joe runs some great book groups and others, kind of groups and content there. That's a lot of good stuff there. So what else? Market Madness. It's coming up and it's going to be a lot of fun. So keep your eyes peeled. Starting Thursday, we are going to be doing the draft then, and it's going to be a blast. So a little bit of stepping in off of that 685 handle that we mentioned. Good place to chill if you are in those options indices, which do have 15 minutes left. Could see a little bit push lower, but in general, setting up for tomorrow. All right, Adrian, my man is back to trading next week. Going to come get active in the Discord. I love to see it. We missed you, but hope life's been treating you good outside of the market, and there's always more moves to catch. So on that note, guys, we got to talk about BMNR just very briefly. Then I'll get out of here. BMNR is directly Ethereum, yeah. So BMNR, I'm a little more hesitant on. I do have a good buddy, Exotic Seal. Shout out Exotic Seal. He is in both Ethereum A and BMNR because we call that the good old Texas hedge. We're hedging our oil with oil companies, But I think that both are basing out. I think that both are offering quite a steep discount. And I think both want to kind of navigate back on up to this breakdown point here. Somewhere like that. So pretty good trades if we can get that move, especially when the market's looking for risk on areas to kind of go into and, find their footing in. So if we can get that turnaround in the mega caps, we can get that money coming back into the QQQs. Ethereum and crypto basically leverage QQQs in a lot of ways. Last thing about the crypto trade, it often trades in reverse to the precious metals market. If they keep hammering my beloved silver, giving me better entries, well, you know what? I'll keep accumulating my silver shares and I will start to build into this position in the Ethereum because that can have that kind of fulcrum effect there or barbell effect. All right, guys, on that note, I'm going to get out of here. Hope you have a great day. I hope you join us tomorrow. Take care, and I'll see you on the flip side.